Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all those who have joined from around the world to attend this event. This event has been organized to remember the life of Jimmy Bueza Sr., who passed away at the age of 65 in Alfonso, Tagaytay in the Philippines on the 30th of March, 2021. I'm your host, Ellen, eldest child of Jimmy, and I'm presenting from London, the United Kingdom, together with my brother and co-host, James, who is based in Vancouver in Canada. On behalf of my mother, Cora, and the Bueza family, I extend a warm welcome to everyone and offer our heartfelt thanks for joining us. We would have preferred to be with you in person. However, the ongoing global COVID crisis and many travel restrictions preclude us from doing so. I would now like to go through the order of service. May I introduce the key people who will be referred to during the event. I'll just ask you to unmute yourselves and say hello and give a quick wave. Cora and James.
Hello.
Cheryl and Danilyn. Tita Fe and Tita Karing. Okay. And I've also invited Mary Jane, who may or may not join today. So everyone will be on mute, meaning mic off for most of the event. Please do not unmute yourself unless you're invited to do so. Also, we may not be actively monitoring the chat. The memorial service is being recorded and will be made available to anyone who could not attend. So I'd like to go ahead and share with you a piece called A Life in Pictures.
Asan ang Panginoon? Alisin mo to.
Thank you very much to those who sent pictures in advance to contribute to the virtual walk down memory lane. So now let's move on to the portion where we invite some key people to say a few words. I'll give the floor now to the selected speakers who will take us through some of their memories of Jimmy and any anecdotes they'd like to share. So let's start with James, only son of Jimmy.
Thank you all for coming to this virtual memorial to remember my dad. All the condolences and caring that everyone has shown to our family is incredibly appreciated. The world is going through crazy times right now, and it can be chaos. Life is chaos, but in the comfort of those around you, you can really find kindness. Please take care of yourselves and keep your family and loved ones safe. Give them hugs and tell them how much you love them. Really show your appreciation for them. Because, well, the last time I gave my dad a hug was over 4 years ago. In 2016, I went to California to chase after my dream of becoming a startup founder, and my dad went to the Philippines to take care of the family's properties. When I was younger, but between now and then, I really wish that I'd done more to talk to my dad. When I was younger, I spent so much time with my dad. He taught me so many new skills, like fishing, playing all kinds of sports, teaching me how to drive stick as well. I couldn't tell you how many times he yelled at me for not shoulder checking enough or messing up my parallel parking technique. It's kind of odd, and that I guess you could say it's natural that we grew, as we grew older, the less we talked. I guess he knew that I was really busy with my career, and he focused on his own projects. When I was told that my dad passed away, I was working late through the night. I'd been up for several hours, lack of sleep, which is a pretty typical thing when it comes to running a startup. The moment that my mom broke the news to me, it was like time was frozen. Was this really happening? Did this really happen? I was rushed with all these memories, thinking about all the good times that I had with my dad. So I wanted to share with you all a few memories and some realizations about my dad's life. As a kid, my dad was a huge inspiration for ambition and determination. He moved to Canada with us on his own, with absolutely nothing, and worked incredibly hard to build what we have today. He was always tough on me, always letting me know that's not good enough. I honestly believe he knew how to start that fire in me. He knew how to motivate me. He knew that I just didn't like disappointing people. It's a very special relationship between a father and son. They call it tough love. He worked so hard throughout his life. I remember there were weeks where I wouldn't even see him at all until the weekends. This was because he was working overtime, trying to put food on the table and try to help my sister and I go through college. I'll always remember him as an example of what it takes to make great things happen. He was always dreaming big and being willing to put in the work to make it happen. I remember we played a lot of golf together. When I was in elementary school, right after school, I'd finish all my homework. Not really, but that's what I'd tell him. Then he'd take me to the golf course and the driving range. We were obsessed with golf. We even had coaches. There was a time back in the day when we spent all of our evenings at the driving range perfecting our shots. But he wasn't a perfect dad, though. His golf swing was kind of awkward and robotic. He sliced a lot of his shots. I would always tell him, you got to open up the hips so that on the downswing so that it won't slice. But then he'd reply with something along the lines of, this golf club's just not working for me. In that time that we played golf together, it really dawned on me that it was his way of showing his love for me. His way of showing his love for me was to see me succeed at something and to get better at something. So in essence, a big lesson for me that I took from him was to really find the best in people and help them be successful. It stuck with me, and it's been ever so important that I use that learning when it comes to creating a business. I've been really fortunate to be a part of a journey of scaling a company. From when we were just small, 8 people, we could literally sit around a coffee table, and that was our company, to scaling the company to over 50 people. Like, I don't even think that we would have grown to that size without my dad teaching me the value in seeing the best in people. Throughout his life, he's always been the type of person to be laughing and having a blast with people. During social gatherings, when we could gather, not like nowadays, I would always observe him and a bunch of family members and friends having a lot of fun by telling stories and laughing. When I mean having fun, though, I mean they were having a lot of fun. He definitely tested his limits on how much he and his friends could drink, whether that was in Winnipeg or in North Vancouver. They were always having a great time. In that realization, he was always about bringing people together and just having a great time. Take the time to really appreciate your loved ones, because life can happen. One day, they're there, and the next, they're gone. It's really weird scrolling through old text messages between him and I. A lot of them are about saying happy birthday and I love you and whatnot. He would always respond to my text messages with love you too. But now, I know that if I send that message to him, there won't be a response. I know that he's now in a better place and that there's no more pain. During his last few weeks, he was going through so much pain, and eventually his body gave up. And then he crossed over. I'm sure that if he sees us now, he would be incredibly happy to see his friends and his loved ones coming together like this. So in closing, I'm really grateful to have him as a father. He really made an impact on a lot of the people throughout his journey. He showed us examples of ambition, to dream big, his determination to work hard in order to make things happen, his ability to make friends, a lot of friends, and have a great time. And then, of course, his way of finding the best in people around him. Rest in peace, Dad. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, James, for sharing. Pa would have appreciated that. He was very proud of you, and he loved you very much. Next, I'd like to invite my Ate Cheryl, eldest niece of Jimmy through his eldest sister, Faye.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Cheryl, and as the oldest niece on the Bueza side, I am very honored to be able to say a few words about my uncle, Tito Jimmy. On behalf of my sisters, Danilyn and Jennifer, and his sisters, my mom, Faye, and Tita Karing, I want to thank all of you for joining us today. We are all deeply saddened by his loss, by the things we never got to say to him, by the things he never got to do, and by the emptiness his death has left in our family. But we are also very comforted in knowing that whatever pain he knew while he was here, and especially in those last few weeks, that he left here, and that he is now at peace and with his mom, our Lola Yoli. My mom is the oldest sibling, and so it was her that sponsored him to come to Canada. So you know that sibling love when you bring your brother to be with you from across the world. When he first arrived here, he came to live with her and her roommates, who are all still her BFFs here in Winnipeg, and who arranged the memorial mass that was held on April 7th. So clearly, Tito Jimmy is remembered and loved by all that he knew, even though he left Winnipeg so long ago. Tito Jimmy was the middle child, but also the only boy. So he was the man of the family, which makes you grow up fast. But when I asked Tita Karing what her fondest memories were, so that I could share with all of you, she said that they never fought. And maybe that's because she always listened to him. But that shows the love and respect she had for him. We will always, and will always have for him. She also shared that he was very friendly and was always bringing friends to their house. And that's what my sisters and I remember too. Tito Jimmy and family moved to BC when I was in junior high. But there are so many fond memories of the parties at Lola Puss's house, and the many, many, many sleepovers. If my sister and I, sorry, James and Jen, you guys were still babies, but if Lynn and I weren't at their house, Ellen was at our house. Cousins could not have been any closer. Tito Cora and Tito Jimmy got to experience what it was like having 3 girls, probably every second weekend. I know we were a handful, but those are stories for another time. It was Tito Jimmy's laugh that we all remember the most. We can still hear it today, just thinking about it. It was infectious. It was a laugh that could not help but make you feel better. And you just had to laugh along with him. When I went with my mom, Tita Karing and Lola Yoli to BC for Ellen's wedding, that is the Tito Jimmy I remember from my childhood. He was forever the gracious host, showing us all around BC for the whole week that we were all there, and feeding us the food. It was a good thing I was 6 months pregnant because there was no hiding all of the food that I ate while I was there. He was such a proud papa, just so very, very proud of Ellen and James, and it was just so nice to be a part of that. Uncles, especially the ones with a sense of humor, are very, very special people. They are missed, but their stories, their laughter will live long in our memories. An anonymous author wrote, and I would like to share these words as they helped all of us, I think, in the last couple of weeks. Those that we love can never be more than a thought away. For as long as there's a memory, they live in our hearts to stay. Don't think of him as gone away. His journey's just begun. Life holds so many facets. This earth is only one. Just think of him as resting from the sorrows and the tears in a place of warmth and comfort where there are no days and years. Think how he must be wishing that we could know today how nothing but our sadness can really pass away. And think of him as living in the hearts of those he touched. For nothing loved is ever lost, and he was loved so much. So rest in peace, Tito Jaime. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Atashare, for sharing and representing the Bueza and Vasquez clans in Winnipeg. Okay, so now it's my turn to share a few memories. In the slideshow, you may have noticed a distinct absence of photographs, 2015 onwards. And that's because I've actually not seen my father in person since I introduced him to his first grandchild, Genevieve, when she was 7 months old. Genevieve will be turning 6 years old at the end of May. And my father never actually met Freddie boy, who has just turned 3 years old. It is a bit of a mystery what happened to my father after he went off to the Philippines. So I have no choice but to remember him as he was pre-2015. And out of deep respect for my mother, who was grieving, and with some knowledge of what he was doing in the lead up to his death, I will share a few impressions of my father as a man, as a parent, and a human being. Those who knew Jimmy in social circles would describe him as a fun-loving, party-going kind of guy. Jimmy was a boy about town, invited to all the weddings and all the christenings. And I recall being a flower girl and a junior bridesmaid at several weddings because of his connections. He also had several godchildren who showed how close he kept his friendships, that the parents should approach him to be godfather. Jimmy loved a good joke. He had a full-bodied laugh, but he was also known to break rules. I look at those photos and I think about that handsome and healthy young guy, tall by Filipino standards back then, brave and adventurous to migrate to Canada at such a young age, who played the acoustic and electric guitar, listened to poetic lyrics played on LP records, played golf, tennis, was an avid fisherman, and he swam very well. He loved the mechanics of cars, and I think he enjoyed many driving trips across Canada and down to the US. If a trip were possible by car, he would take it rather than flying on a plane. Building on Jimmy's character, even when I was a post-grad student living at home, I would observe him offering to take my mom out on a ride on one of his motorcycle bikes that he fixed up in our garage, or hand to my mom a massive dahlia bloom. I distinctly remember him telling the architect in Alfonso that Cora had spent her entire life caring for and helping him, so it was now his turn to take care of Cora. He was a romantic. He was indeed a loving man. But let me turn to his work ethic, since his career and achievement were perhaps an area he felt insecure about, particularly in his latter years. My father was very skilled in conceptual design work, very good at geometry. He could draft out designs and use tools to build almost anything with precision around the house, even a basement, a garage, or a house extension. Now, don't ask Mom about Pa's completion rate. I think he was better at starting projects. What I can say is that he had heaps of energy and imagination and technical know-how to get things off of the ground. As a person, he had high expectations of others and strict rules around how to behave in order to preserve or raise reputation. You see me smiling now, but boy, were his standards impossibly high when I was growing up as a teenager and a young adult. This was often too difficult for me to bear or be around. It is this combination of Jimmy's traits, it is no wonder, that kept him in a long career in manufacturing, usually in aerostructuring quality control. He worked at Boeing Winnipeg, where he made parts of the tail and wings of smaller aircraft. Correct me if I'm wrong. And later he worked at Avcorp Industries in Delta, where he oversaw the production of specific airplane parts, fast ferry and light railway train parts as well. He mentioned several times that his eyes were needed to look at everything very carefully because others' errors could affect the lives of the public. He was a perfectionist and always worked very long hours. I like to think his employers respected him and his work, as the Avcorp CEO and HR director actually sent flowers out of sympathy to my mother a few weeks ago. Jimmy worked a lot, sometimes 12 to 14 hours a day. And those long weekday hours enabled him to treat us to what we wanted at the weekends. And he was a very generous person indeed. He loved to be in a position where he was depended upon and could give lots to others. If you caught him at the right time and the right mood, you could find yourself with a $20 bill to buy whatever you liked in the corner shop. In my last conversation with my father, I shared with him pictures from my childhood and told him about my favorite memory, which I will share with you now. Before my brother was born, my dad used to take me on long drives around Winnipeg, no particular destination, just the two of us cruising around in Winnipeg traffic. He was paid fortnightly, which means every 2 weeks. And I loved him on his payday because he would be all smiles. You know, he'd be taking his paper paycheck and flapping it around. And he'd be shouting, "Ellen, what do you want for dinner? Sky is the limit. Sky is the limit, Ellen. Choose anything because it's payday." So you can just imagine a 7-year-old me jumping up and down and shrieking with excitement. The sky to a 7-year-old is really high. For some reason, I would always ask for chili fries from Hotspot on the corner of Notre Dame and McPhillips. So chili fries were the most oily, soggy fries covered in stewed beef chili with kidney beans, served in red and white striped paper cartons. But we thought they were flavorful. And he would drive me from the Maples all the way across town for these chili fries. And we never talked in his car, didn't say a word at all. But I loved that continuous silence sitting in his back seat. You know, I wouldn't even wear a seatbelt, and I would position myself in the back seat so that I had the best view of him, just admiring his reflection in the rearview mirror. And I'd watch him flicking his cigarette ashes out the window. And looking into that rearview mirror, I could see that my eyes looked like his eyes. I was his mini-me, his so-called carbon copy. But I loved Pa when he was like that, you know, like feeling content, feeling at the top of the world because he was rewarded for his hard work and feeling admired for his generosity. He was very generous to us and bought only the best his money could afford. So Hotspot doesn't exist anymore, but those car trips are still incredibly fresh and vivid in my mind. And I told him so during our last video call when he was in the hospital. So you are gone now, but I thank you, Pa. Maraming salamat po for everything you did for us, truly. I regret deeply not telling you enough thank you. I appreciate your work. and I love you. I wish my children could know you. I pay tribute to your work and your life's achievements. It was indeed good enough and brought us happiness. Rest in peace, my handsome papa. Yes, sorry, I'll read a few entries from the Book of Condolence. We have Nomi Buesa from Calabanga, Camarines Sur in Philippines, and she's Hermes Buesa's wife and daughter-in-law of Pai Pedro's brother, Emilio Buesa. She says, my deepest condolences to you and your family, especially to your mom, Manay Cora. I know how she feels now. Please relay my condolences to her. I miss your mom. From Mr. and Mrs. Bernie and Letty Evan in Winnipeg. He is my best friend with Amando Rosario. Rest in peace, my dearest best friend. May God bless your soul always. We will all miss you. From Ben and Luz Santos in Winnipeg. He is the godfather of our son, James Santos, who lives in Vancouver. Our condolences to your family. From Ted Mercado Manita in Florida. Jamie's wife is my first cousin. Please accept our deepest condolences for your loss. From Pat Nutley at AvCorp, who worked with my dad for many years. Sorry to hear of his passing. And here are a few entries from the Lumabas family in Surrey and New Westminster. I knew him in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where he has been a longtime friend. He is my son Randall's godfather. My deepest condolences to the family of Jaime, Marincora, Eleanor, and Jaime Jr. Sharing my deepest condolences to the Bueza family. Tito Jaime was a great man to his family and friends. His legacy will live on with his wife and kids and will continue to live on in our hearts. All right. So on the program, we had Mary Jane to speak, and she was his guardian in the Philippines and oversaw his care and the care team, Nance and Melanie. Unfortunately, she's not well. It's in the middle of a global coronavirus pandemic, so she's not well, but she said that she did want to attend and say a few words. If she does join later, I will give her the floor. So I wanted to open the floor now to anybody who would like to speak. Okay. So if there is nobody who would like to offer any further words, I can move on to last remarks. So the event today has taken a virtual format, and many of us are unfamiliar with this format. Nevertheless, I hope you have found some closure and peace, knowing that Jimmy is no longer in pain and he's passed on. I hope you will keep with you the positive memories of how Jimmy touched your lives as a brother, a cousin, an uncle, a nephew, a relative, a godfather, a friend. I will be sharing the recording of this virtual memorial with those who want it, as well as the link to the memorial slideshow. Please sign the ebook of condolence if you can. We will share the link to it in the last slide, or you can request it from me and I will send it to you. So before we part ways, I wanted to thank you again on behalf of our wider family for joining us today. I want to leave you with some moving images of my father as I like to remember him back in 2009, which was a very happy, celebratory year for all of us.
So pink is for the girls and blue is for the boys. Who spends more time in the washroom? My dad. My dad. Jimmy, you're not lying today. Because I'm going to talk about a different part of your relationship now. I want to talk about control within your relationship. Neil, put your flag down. Who controls the finances? We're not sure. All right. Good for you, Russell. All right, just a few more questions. Who controls the music in the car? Who controls the television remote?
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that clip. Now moving on to the last part of the program, which is the acknowledgments. And I'll invite my mother, Cora, Jimmy's widow, to say a few words. If you could please unmute yourself.
Gusto kong magpasalamat sa inyong lahat. I wish to thank each and every one of you for participating in this virtual memorial for my husband. At this time of grief, your familiar faces and kind words bring comfort to our family. Kim and I would have celebrated our 44th wedding anniversary 2 days ago. And thank you for coming to see us. It means so much to all of us. Thank you. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
Thank you. That closes the program, but we will be still in the chat inside the meeting if you would like to speak with us. Thank you.